In early June, the weather was hot and humid, and it was drizzling outside the window. Buzz. Inside the house, the phone on the bedside table kept vibrating. "Don't be noisy, don't be noisy, just sleep in a while and get up." Fang Heng, who was lying on the bed, murmured, and habitually reached out to turn off the alarm clock. "Okay? Where's my alarm clock?" In a daze, Fang Heng opened his eyes. The small room was messy. A small wooden bed and a game compartment took up about one-third of the room. The takeaway was left on the wooden table at will, and there were several empty wine bottles scattered on the ground. There was a picture hanging on the wall, a handsome young man holding the trophy surrounded by the crowd. There was no smile on his face, instead he was a little arrogant. Fang Heng's body trembled, and he sat up suddenly and woke up, without the slightest sleepiness. "What the hell? This is not my home." In an instant, countless chaotic information merged into Fang Heng's mind. "This body is called Fang Heng like me. He committed suicide last night? My soul has passed through? The phone was still vibrating in his hand. Fang Heng saw the caller ID, and the words "Big Trouble" were written on the note. Fang Heng connected the phone, and a crisp female voice came from inside. "Fang Heng! You bastard! Where have you gone? Can't find you all day? Are you ready to commit suicide?" Facing the question on the phone, Fang Heng was silent for a while. He could hear the anxiety in the other's tone. "Sorry, I made you worry, what's the matter?" On the other end of the phone, Xia Xi was stunned. In the past, Fang Heng never said anything like sorry. "Are you really all right?" Fang Heng realized that he seemed to have said something wrong. "In my memory, the original owner of this body had a very grumpy temper. If he did something wrong, it would be fine if he didn't get slapped. It was harder to get him to apologize than to kill him." Fang Heng simulated the impatient tone of the original owner of the body. "Anything else? If not, I'll go back to sleep." "Wait, a friend of mine has opened a new online game company and is recruiting professional players. Her company is very big and the benefits are also very good." Xia Xi bit her lip. "I didn't contact you yesterday, so I'll put it first. Your resume has been sent, and the interview is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon." "Game company?" For a time, pictures quickly passed in front of Fang Heng's eyes. His eyes fell on the picture on the wall again. The original owner of the body used to be a professional player in a certain game club. At his peak, he represented his country in the World Championships and achieved good results in the international arena. However, the original owner was short-tempered, and he often got into trouble with his teammates in the team, and fought with his teammates several times. Later, in order to please his girlfriend, under the encouragement of his girlfriend, he charged money to help others fight fake matches. Soon, the club's performance plummeted, the fight was exposed on the internet, and even the match fixer was discovered by the club and kicked out of the club. If Xia Xi hadn't been begging for mercy and finding ways to help him, he might even have been arrested and sent to prison because of this incident. "The interview is settled. In short, you pack up. I'll pick you up tomorrow afternoon." After Xia Xi finished speaking, she hung up the phone, not giving Fang Heng a chance to refuse. Fang Heng held up the phone blankly, listening to the busy tone after hanging up. "No wonder, I'm a professional player." Fang Heng moved his gaze to the simulation game warehouse in the room to collect the memory of this body. The world after traversal is highly similar to the parallel world where Fang Heng originally lived, but there is one more special thing. The game of the Lord God. In this world, the game for all is not an empty talk. All human beings will be forcibly pulled into a place where the main space becomes a player after they reach adulthood. In the beginning, players will have to choose one of 3 dangerous post-apocalyptic survival games, and will be forced to stay in the game for at least 30 days every year. In addition, each player will awaken a talent skill after entering the game. The former owner of the body was extremely fortunate to have obtained the highest level talent of this level in the game, which also laid the foundation for him to become a professional player. You must know that there are only a few hundred players in the entire Huaxia region who have obtained S-level talent. Fang Heng scratched his hair. His memory is somewhat lacking, and he has forgotten why the original owner of his body committed suicide. However, the original owner of this body has not earned a penny since being kicked out from the game club, and the rent has not been paid for more than half a year. Fang Heng flipped through his phone again to check. There were several reminder text messages on his phone. No way! Could it be that he died of poverty? Fang Heng has never had big ambitions, he doesn't seek great wealth or honor, as long as he can live his life in peace and stability. I have to find a way to get some money. Well, there will be an interview related to the game tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, let's go to the game to see what's going on. Welcome players back to the main space. Entering the primary game Zombie Apocalypse. The game world is considered another real world. If the player dies after entering the game world, he will enter the soul state and be forcibly sent back to the main space. Unless you have special props or skills, after 3 deaths, you will be swallowed by the main space forever and die completely. Entering the game, as soon as he opened his eyes, Fang Heng saw a pale and terrifying face in front of him. A zombie stood face to face in front of Fang Heng less than half a meter away. Depend on. Fang Heng took 2 steps back in fright. Scare me. After calming down, Fang Heng realized that this zombie was his own body. Right, S-rank talent. Fang Heng opened the character page and switched to observe the character's talents and skills. Talent skill, Zombie Clone. Talent level, S. Talent description, you have a permanent zombie clone. The zombie clone has 39.5% of the body's full attributes and an additional body's 780% blood volume. It inherits some basic skills and passive skills of the body. After 7.8 hours from the battle, it will restore all the status, and 27.5 after death. Automatically resurrect after hours. Additional instructions. Raising your player level can make the zombie avatar get a higher percentage attribute bonus and shorten the resurrection time. This rank talent doesn't seem to be very strong. Fang Heng muttered to himself and closed the game instructions. In my memory, zombies do not have the ability to think, they only accept Fang Heng's orders, and they cannot perform fine control after leaving their sight. Under normal circumstances, in addition to using zombie clones to fight, zombie clones can also hang up. Even after going offline, the zombie clone can faithfully execute the orders given by Fang Heng. It's just that its brain is not very good, and it can only accept the simplest hang up command. Thinking about it, Fang Heng opened the game log to check. Your zombies begin to collect materials and investigate. Your zombies enter Route 102. What did your zombie notice? Your zombies picked up ordinary waste on the side of the road *1. Your zombies continue to move forward. Your zombie met a group of zombies oncoming. Your zombies continue to explore forward. Your zombies pass by the zombies. Your zombies are picking up wood by the roadside *1. Your zombies are picking up wood by the roadside *1. Your zombie found an abandoned junk pile on the side of the road. Your zombie is trying to search the junk pile. Search failed. Your zombies obtained contaminated bottled water *1 in the search. Your zombie backpack is full and you are returning to the shelter. Your zombies have completed 20 collections of supplies. UU reading www.uuganshu.com is waiting for a new command. Fang Heng quickly judged the hanging up income this time. Some basic building materials, water, food. There is no doubt that these materials and foods are extremely useful in the doomsday survival environment. But can this skill really be considered in S-rank? This is the so-called strongest S-rank talent? How weak is the talent of other players? Fang Heng pouted and couldn't help but want to complain. Just as he was about to stroll around the shelter to see how much property the previous owner had left to him, a reminder sounded suddenly in his ear. Hint: exception detected. Hint: a new player has been detected to join the game, okay? New player? Could it be that my soul crossing has been detected? Fang Heng's face changed slightly. Tips: a conflict is detected, and the current player is determined to be a newcomer. Resetting: all your current skills are forgotten. All current points are cleared, and the backpack is cleared. The level is cleared, the initial number of rebirths is reset, and the current number of remaining rebirths, 3. What's the meaning? Clear account data? No way. Wouldn't it be so pitiful? Fang Heng felt more and more bad. Tips: clearing is complete. Welcome to the main game, new players can get innate skills. Hint: since you already have a talent skill, please make a choice 1, get a new talent, you will have 2 talents at the same time. 2. Upgrade your talent. Hey? A virtual selection box appeared in front of Fang Heng's eyes. 1. Extract a new talent and keep the original talent. 2. Upgrade your original talent. Upgradable talents? Fang Heng was surprised. Isn't this level talent already the highest level talent? Can it still improve? Returning to his senses, Fang Heng quickly judged the situation in front of him. Right now, it's too risky to randomly acquire a skill, and it would be very common to draw an ordinary skill. Comparatively speaking, although the zombie clone effect of the current level talent is not as strong as imagined, it is still an S-level skill. If you upgrade it a little bit, it might have a miraculous effect. Bet. Fang Heng reached out and clicked on option 2, I choose to upgrade my talent. Hint: players choose to upgrade their talents and obtain SS level skills, enhancement super zombie avatar. Hint: original talent zombie avatar skill level cleared. Talent: strengthening super zombie clone. Equal order, SSS. Talent description: you can now control a more powerful zombie clone. The zombie clone has 50% of the body's full attributes and an extra 300% of the body's health. The zombie clone can inherit most of the body skills and passive skills. Additional instructions: every time your character level increases, you can get additional zombie clones of the current character level, and your zombie clones get higher attributes. Incredible! After reviewing the skill description, Fang Heng couldn't help but say something. Hint: the reset is complete, please select the initial game world. After choosing the talent, Fang Heng found himself back in the main space. Okay? Did the game progress even reset? Fang Heng remembered that the original owner of the body was an infrastructure maniac. He spent several years building a single-person shelter in the zombie apocalypse. There were hundreds of storage boxes for basic building materials in the warehouse. Wait a moment. The original owner of the body has been accumulating all the survival materials for so long. What's the meaning? Do not let cool? Please choose one of the following initial game worlds. Simple difficulty, 1. Zombie Apocalypse. 2. Doomsday in the Wasteland. 3. The End of the Blood Race. Damn! Fang Heng, who was still planning to inherit the inheritance, sighed and was forced to accept the reality. When the player first enters the main game, he can choose the target game background. The zombie apocalypse corresponds to an apocalyptic world where zombies are rampant. The background setting is that all countries are destroyed, and only a few survivors survive. The environment of the End of the Wasteland is a world destroyed by nuclear radiation. Humans have built several safe fortresses underground, and the ground is full of mutated monsters. If they leave the ground rashly, they will be affected by radiation. As for the last vampire Doomsday, it is in a world ruled by vampires, and human beings become the food raised by vampires. Of the 3 novice worlds, Doomsday of the Blood Race is recognized as the easiest one. As a captive human being, as long as you don't die in the early days, it is relatively easy to survive, but the end of zombies is the most difficult. More than 50% of players will die in the initial single-player survival. After thinking for a while, Fang Hung decided to enter the zombie apocalypse world. The zombie apocalypse matches his talents the most. Taking advantage of the fact that the zombies in the wild do not have advanced intelligence and will not attack the same kind, Fang Hung can use the hang-up skill of the talent zombie clone to quickly collect resources in the apocalypse. If it were changed to the background of the world view of the end of the Blood Clan, the zombies he sent out to hang up would soon be regarded as monsters on the street and shot by the police. Hint: players have completed the selection Zombie Apocalypse. Entering the apocalypse, Fang Hung's eyes were soft. Opening his eyes again, Fang Hung found himself standing in a forest. Please start your journey. In a doomsday, you need to face various crises. Please try to survive. Fang Hung looked around cautiously. The opening is a forest environment. After confirming that there are no zombies in the field of vision, Fang Hung first opened the character attributes to check. Player, Fang Hung. Grade 1. Health, 100/100. Stamina, 100/100. Spirit, 100/100. Energy value, 100/100. Strength, 5. Swiftness, 5. Physique, 5. Will, 5. Perception, 5. Perception, 5. Talent skill, Enhancement Super Zombie Clone. There is only one portable survival radio in the backpack, and the attributes of the characters have also been reset by the Lord God. The system is really a pit. The sudden game reset disrupted Fang Hung's original plan. He shook his head, nodding in thought. In order to protect the safety of people's lives, the federal government has established various safety zones in the primary game of Lord God, and ordinary civilian players can get free shelter from the government in the safety zone. In other words, as long as he reaches the safe zone, he is safe. Unfortunately, it is difficult to do this in practice. There are very few federal security zones, and the game world is extremely huge. In addition, the game world also has a setting to distinguish the game zone. After entering the game, ordinary players will even randomly appear in all corners of the world, so it is difficult to be in the first place. Time to find the safe zone. Generally at this time, after entering the game, players will choose to find shelters established by various game guilds or game companies to temporarily live in. It's not free. After going offline, the player also finds the game company or trade union behind the shelter and pays a sum of money as rent. As long as you have money, you can greatly improve your chances of survival in the game. Unfortunately, Fang Hung now owes a lot of money to others. However, some shelters also provide some jobs. Fang Hung can try to get a few days of rental rights by submitting some materials. Find a nearby shelter to settle down first, and then consider other things. Fang Hung took out the portable survival radio in his backpack. The portable radio can send a message every half an hour, and players within 100 kilometers of him can check the message through the radio. Similarly, Fang Hung can also receive messages from nearby players within 100 kilometers through the radio. Many shelters advertise every half hour to attract customers. Fang Hung just connected to the radio, and dense messages were refreshed. It's over, it's over, it's the 8th district. Gan. So unlucky. Is there a team? My talent is predators. Is there a shelter? Urgent. The price is negotiable. Fuck. How did the 8th district open? Why am I so unlucky? Water, I want water. I haven't had water for 7 hours, I'm going to be overwhelmed, I have wood to replace. Please teammates, we have 3 people here, we are going to start building a shelter within 7 days. UU reading www.uugonshu.com coordinates, 20291*82112, if you are interested, come quickly, only elite players are accepted, beggars go. District 8? New server? Fang Hung was startled. The main game world of primary difficulty generally has multiple mirror game worlds existing at the same time, similar to a server. The Lord God rarely opens a new server. This usually happens after the old server is full, the old server is judged to be a negative game, or after a certain server is cleared. After opening the new server, many old players who were judged as passive games in the main game will also be forced to join the new server. During the opening of the new server, everything will start anew, and the difficulty of survival will naturally increase 100-fold and 1,000-fold. Players have the highest death rate during this period. Ha ha ha! I got rich! Facing the crisis, Fang Hung was rather excited and clenched his fists. Similarly, crisis also means opportunity. An opportunity to make a lot of money. The resources in the old server have long been monopolized by various game companies and federal governments, and in the new server, all this will start anew. Fang Hung raised his hand. The mud in front of him tossed. Shh! A light brown palm sticks out of the dirt. The rotten zombie crawled out of the mud with difficulty, with a rancid smell, standing in front of Fang Hung. Go! Fang Hung controlled the zombie avatar to open the way in front and stepped forward. The plan needs to change. If you can take the lead in building a shelter in the game and collect rent from the outside world. In the forest, Fang Hung followed the zombie clone slowly forward. Fang Hung stopped from time to time to look around, then bent down to pick up the basic survival supplies scattered on the ground. Hint: you got firewood. In the doomsday environment, many materials can be picked up directly, such as small stones, firewood, hay, etc. These things are the materials for making basic survival props. After walking and stopping for nearly 10 minutes, the zombie clone walking in front stopped. Not far away, a zombie stood alone under a tree. Fang Hung frowned, he slowly crouched down, and covered his body in the bushes to observe. In the apocalypse, zombies are the biggest threat. After the player defeats the zombies, there is a small probability that some items will explode. One of the items is extremely important, called Evolution Crystal. In the Lord God game, the Evolution Crystal is the only way to increase the player's level. Generally speaking, in the early stage of the game, it is time to race against time. It is the best choice to find a way to collect survival materials to survive. It is a very stupid behavior to waste a lot of time killing zombies. After all, the explosion rate of zombies is low, and the things that explode are not necessarily useful in the early stage. If you accidentally get infected during a fight, you will be dead. Not worth the loss. But Fang Heng's eyes rolled. He is different from ordinary players. If there is a chance to kill the zombies and explode the evolution crystal, quickly raise the level to level 2, then he can summon 2 additional zombie clones, greatly improving the current strength and his early hanging up efficiency. Fang Hung narrowed his eyes, opened his backpack, and glanced at the supplies. Enough. Along the way, he collected enough basic materials to make 2 wooden spears. Fang Hung made the zombies stand guard, crouched down, and opened the skill panel. In the skill panel, there are various doomsday survival props that can be crafted in the basic building materials item, including wooden axes, simple beds, simple bonfires, etc. Fang Hung quickly selected the wooden spear, and a green reading bar appeared on his head. 5 minutes later, Fang Hung had 2 more wooden spears in his hand. Hint: you have completed the production of the wooden spear. You get a wooden spear *2. Hint: if you understand the basic crafting skills, your basic crafting skills experience value +2. Item: simple wooden spear. Quality: poor. Attack: 47. Description: the most basic survival weapon, with rough workmanship, can cause less damage to zombies. Fang Hung weighed the spear in his hand, and then threw one of the spears to the zombie clone beside him. Let's fight! Fang Hung and the zombie clone each held a wooden spear and slowly approached from behind the enemy zombie. SHH. The zombie clone took the lead to attack, and the wooden spear pierced into the body of the rotting zombie. Ow! Woo! The attacked zombie let out a howl, turned around and rushed towards Fang Hung. It beat you, why did you beat me? Fang Hung cursed in his mouth, his body's muscle memory was still there, he reacted extremely quickly, and quickly took a small step back to avoid the attack. The wooden spear in his hand stabbed forward fiercely. SHH. The tip of the wooden spear pierced into the dead body, making a dry sound. Fang Hung frowned. This spear felt like it was stabbed in a piece of rotten wood. Fang Hung quickly pulled out the wooden spear and stepped back. The zombie's movements are very stiff, but the defense is quite good. The body is still alive after being poked by the spear several times. Fang Hung didn't dare to be careless, he cooperated with the clone to circle around the zombie, looking for opportunities to stab it a few times from time to time. Don't look at the slow movement of zombies, if you are accidentally scratched by it, you will be infected with the virus. In the early stage of the game, if you are infected with a zombie virus, you can kill yourself as soon as possible, and you will never be saved. Fang Hung brandished the wooden spear and stabbed Xiao more than 20 times one after another, before Xiao fell down crying. Hint: if you kill a zombie, you get 2 experience points and 2 survival points. Survival points are the currency of the zombie apocalypse world. Players can use the survival points to buy props through the system store. Damn! No evolution spar. Really loses morale. Fang Hung shook his head again and again. It took Fang Hung a lot of effort to kill the zombies this time, and it also cost him a lot of time. The explosion rate of the lowest level evolution spar fragments is about 20%. It is expected that the fragments will not explode for the first time. If you kill a few more, they will always explode. Fang Hung could only comfort himself like this. Error tolerance is still there. The worst case scenario is that you won't be offline tonight if you're hungry. Ugh! There was a lot of noise during the battle just now. The second zombie was attracted by the sound and staggered towards Fang Hung from a distance. Come again. Continue. Fang Hung lifted his spirits, picked up the wooden spear and continued to kill the zombies with all his might. Until the 8th zombie died under the spear, Fang Hung finally heard a tinkling in his ear that the item was dropped. Hint: if you kill a strong zombie, you get 2 experience points and 3 survival points. Hint: you have obtained evolution spar fragments *1. Crystal. It finally exploded. Fang Hengda breathed a sigh of relief, and took the exploded evolution spar fragment in his hand to observe. The little finger-sized spar fragment exudes a scarlet light. Item: evolution spar fragments. Item description: special spar fragments, containing powerful power, can increase the player's character experience value, only effective for players with current level LV 5 or below. Boom! With a force, the shards were crushed in Fang Heng's hands. The burst of red mist was absorbed by Fang Heng's palm. Hint: you have absorbed evolution spar fragments. Hint: your level is increased to LV 2, and you will get 2 additional zombie clones. 2 zombies staggered out of the mud, one left and one right, standing obediently behind Fang Hung. Haha! It's done. Fang Hung threw the spear in his hand to one of the zombies, lowered his head and continued to make the spear. 2 new zombie clones have been added, and the efficiency of killing monsters has been greatly improved. Find a way to upgrade the talent skill to level 3. At that time, there will be 6 clones. Survive? No, reading www.yuyuganshu.com is now the most important thing to level up. Fang Hung made 2 more wooden spears and instructed the zombie clone to deliberately beat the tree to make some noises, attracting nearby zombies. Brush zombie upgrade plan. Start. This game is really interesting. Fang Hung muttered, raised his spear and stabbed at the staggering zombies in the distance. If someone saw Fang Heng's behavior of killing zombies at this time, he would definitely think Fang Heng was crazy. How long has it been since the game opened, and you started to spawn zombies? Shouldn't this kind of thing be considered in the late game? 3 hours later, Fang Heng's character level has been raised to level 4. A total of 10 zombie clones stood neatly behind Fang Heng. After a character reaches level 4, the experience gained by using crystal fragments is greatly reduced. Fang Heng roughly estimated that it would take about 20 or 30 pieces of evolution spar to raise the talent skill to level 5, which cannot be gathered in a short time. Seeing that the sun is about to set, the number and intensity of zombies at night will greatly increase. Still trying to find a system shelter to settle down. Thinking of this, Fang Heng dug out the survival radio from his backpack. Survival radio can use the search function to search for the coordinates of nearby system shelters. The premise is to spend survival points. Fang Heng killed so many zombies along the way, and now he has a total of 172 survival points. With so many points, it was definitely a huge sum of money in the initial stage. Spending 10 points to get the nearest system shelter location, Fang Heng stopped delaying and hurried towards the shelter location. Hint: you have found a simple shelter. The shelter can accommodate up to 5 people, currently 3 people are accommodated. Tips: players can be protected from zombie attacks in the shelter. If the number of people in the shelter exceeds the maximum capacity, the shelter will lose its shelter function. Hint: after 62 hours, the shelter will lose its function. The shelter is a benefit provided by players to novice players. In the shelter state, zombies will not actively attack the shelter. Luckily, this shelter is not full. Fang Heng pushed open the wooden door of the shelter and walked in carelessly. Several players in the shelter who were sitting in front of the bonfire and talking stood up in unison, staring at Fang Heng vigilantly. One of the old men even took out a bow and crossbow and aimed it at the zombies behind Fang Heng. "Don't get excited." Fang Heng pointed at the zombies and explained, "It's my innate skill summon, and it's not dangerous." Everyone looked at Fang Heng and confirmed that the zombie behind him was standing obediently, and then sat down again. There were 3 people in the room: a fat boy with short sleeves, a thin black old man with a bow and a crossbow, and a young woman with light makeup and stylish clothes. Ever since Fang Heng entered the door, the young woman has been looking at him. "Brother, your skills are so scary, come and sit." Fatty heaved a sigh of relief, and called Fang Heng to come and sit together. "I'm still surprised that there is a shelter, so zombies can't get in." "Haha, the talent I just got drawn is not bad, but it's a little ugly." Fang Heng waved his hand and instructed the 10 zombies to collect supplies nearby, and walked into the shelter alone. The zombie clone will not be attacked by the same kind of zombies even at night, and it can keep the hanging up state for 24 hours. "By the way, my name is Liao Bufan, he is Jimmy, this beautiful lady is called Lu Linear. My name is Fang Heng." Fang Heng sat around the bonfire with everyone. "It's really unfortunate. I was still in the shelter set up by the government. I was suddenly judged as a negative game and sent here. It's annoying to death. This is terrible. In the new apocalyptic world, it will take at least a few months for the Federation to send people in to build a shelter. Alas! How can I get through this?" "Liao Bufan is a talker," he said indignantly, and introduced everyone's identities by the way. All 3 of them were judged as negative games by the main and forced to join the zombie apocalypse world. Liao Bufan is a college student who has just entered the game for only a year. In the real world, the black and thin old man is the management of a foreign company. Except for Liao Bufan, the other 2 are not very talkative. The sun went down, and the temperature in the wooden house gradually dropped. Jimmy took out dry wood from his backpack and threw it into the bonfire to make the bonfire more vigorous. "Goo goo goo." Liao Bufan touched the screaming belly, and his face turned red. "Hungry." Fang Heng also felt hungry in his stomach. After fighting zombies for a day, his physical strength was exhausted. Lu Lin pulled out 2 potatoes from her backpack, put them on the branches, and roasted them on the volcano. The aroma of the food soon came out. Gudong. Liao Bufan swallowed and looked at the baked potato in Lu Lin's hand very greedily. I'm lucky today. I collected a few potatoes. If you have any survival supplies, you can exchange them with me. The black and thin old man Jimmy thought for a while, then took out 3 bottles of water from his backpack and placed them in front of the bonfire. Little girl, what do you think of this? Not enough, uncle. Lu Lin shook her head. Food is the most precious in the initial stage of the game, especially in this forest environment, where early players lack hunting ability. Food is the most difficult to obtain, and the value of 3 bottles of water is not enough. Jimmy nodded, and pulled out 3 more water bottles from his backpack. 6 bottles, the most. I still need the rest of the water myself. Okay, I'll exchange a potato for you. Lu Lin handed over a potato and put away Jimmy's 6 bottles of water. What about you, do you want to exchange food with me? Liao Bufan had a bitter look on his face. He had no experience in the survival of zombie apocalypse, and his luck was not very good. He didn't collect any valuable materials along the way. He simply took out everything in his backpack and put it on the ground. I only have these things, you can take them all you see, okay? The abacus is very smart, and you want to use these materials for food. Old Jimmy picked up the potatoes he just bought and roasted them on the bonfire. He shook his head and said, "Is this the white prostitute you young people have been talking about all the time? Don't say that." Liao Bufan looked at Lu Lin with some expectation. How about I borrow it from you? I'll pay it back to you tomorrow. Lu Lin simply refused. No loan. Liao Bufan's face became even more bitter. Fang Hung, how about you? Lu Lin looked at Fang Hung and winked at him. Do you want to exchange supplies with me? No. Fang Hung shrugged. He was killing zombies all day, so how could he collect supplies? However, he is not in a hurry. Soon, the zombie clones hanging outside will continue to send him survival supplies. Lu Lin smiled and asked, "Do you think this is good? Tomorrow we will start a team and act together. You will protect my safety during the day, and I will be responsible for your food during the day. Okay? What's the meaning? Want to take care of me?" Fang Hung looked up at Lu Lin. "You are wrong." Wait a minute. Liao Bufan saw the opportunity and volunteered, "Rich lady, I can also work for you. I'll work for you tomorrow. I just need to fill my stomach." You. Lu Lin glanced at Liao Bufan with disgust. "You can also try, but you only have half a potato tonight." Hey! Why? Why do I only have half a potato? Liao Bufan is angry. Why can't I rely on my face to eat? Can the world get better? Lu Lin smiled without answering, just looked at Fang Hung. How about my proposal? Think about it. Fang Hung shrugged. No, I have other things to do tomorrow. Lu Lin was a little disappointed. She admitted that she did have a reason to look for Fang Hung to form a team, but most importantly, Lu Lin took a fancy to Fang Hung's talent and skills. The first day was fine. As the game progressed, when faced with death, the rules of the real world became meaningless in the game. There will be more and more cases of malicious looting of materials. She needs to find a trusted companion as soon as possible. From Lu Lin's point of view, Fang Heng's obedient zombie would be very useful in a doomsday environment. Taking the next step, Lu Lin looked at Liao Bufan. Okay, Liao Bufan, how about you? What do you say? Half a potato. Liao Bufan was confused. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. He is in pain right now. The small half of the potato that Lu Lin gave can't fill his stomach, so she agreed to sell it, which is a bit too cheap. Fang Hung wanted to laugh at Liao Bufan's tangled expression. Okay. I'll follow you tomorrow. But tomorrow you must have at least 2 potatoes for every meal. Can. Lu Lin said, and handed over half a potato. Liao Bufan's face was full of smiles again, imitating Lu Lin. He used a branch to pierce half a potato and put it on the volcano to roast. After eating half a potato, his satiety barely increased by 10 points. Liao Bufan touched his stomach and felt a little unsure. Looking at Fang Hung who was sitting in front of the fire, he couldn't help but ask, "Brother, are you going to be hungry tonight? You will be in a bad state tomorrow, or else, get rid of that rich woman? To make money, it's not shabby." Liao Bufan's zealous persuasion has quite the mentality that I have bowed my head for the sake of life, or you will be with me. Fang Hung wasn't stunned, he was checking the hang-up status of the zombie clone through the game system just now. The situation is good, and the harvest is very good. Fang Hung closed the system game log, patted Liao Bufan on the shoulder again, and asked, "Brother, did you not have enough to eat just now?" "Of course, half a potato is not enough. Then how about I exchange a hard-boiled egg for all your materials? Do you have boiled eggs?" "Not yet." Fang Hung looked up at the door of the cabin, "But there will be soon." "What do you mean?" Liao Bufan didn't quite understand. He raised his head stupidly and followed Fang Heng's gaze towards the door of the wooden house. There were footsteps outside the wooden door. The black and thin old man Jimmy narrowed his eyes, looked at the zombies vigilantly, and put his hand on the crossbow. The zombie staggered to Fang Hung and threw the materials collected outside on the floor. "Hint, your zombies complete a round of material search in advance, you get firewood 2, pebbles 7, feathers 4, bird eggs 2, scraps 2, plastics 1. Fang Hung waved his hand and let the zombie clone go outside for the next round of hanging up. This is... Liao Bufan stared in shock at the zombie who sent the materials to Fang Hung. He was speechless in surprise, and it took a long time to say something weakly. "Can the game still be played like this? Look at what you said, it's all basic operations." Fang Hung said, "Put away the supplies, only 2 eggs were left," put them in front of his nose and smelled them. "Well, it's not bad." This zombie clone was lucky. During the search, he found a bird's nest and found 2 eggs as food. Shen Ti Miao's basic operations, why can't I? Liao Bufan only reacted at this time, he was afraid that Fang Hung would go back on his words, and quickly said, "The deal is done, Fang Hung, we just agreed, I will exchange all the materials for you." "Fried eggs? That's natural." Fang Hung put all the supplies in front of Liao Bufan into his backpack. Fang Hung disliked most of the materials that Liao Bufan had collected, but one of the evolutionary crystal fragments was what he needed. "Good boy, amazing, your talent and skills are not ordinary, your grade must be very high." Jimmy saw that there was no threat from the zombies, so he put away his weapons early. "It's an rank talent skill." Fang Hung admitted it openly. "No wonder." Jimmy nodded with a smile, and lived in a shelter with a person with level support talent, he could more or less get some light. Liao Bufan, as always, looked at Fang Heng's 2 eggs with drooling eyes, and urged Fang Hung to start work quickly. "Fang Hung, don't say that some of these are gone, the money has been collected, hurry up and cook, what are we waiting for? If you want to fry eggs, you should still need water, right?" Lu Lin realized that Fang Heng's talent skills were more powerful than she expected. After the initial surprise, she took the initiative and said, "I have water here, I can lend it to you." "No, I'm fine," Fang Hung said, looking up at the door again. Another zombie walked in from the wooden door staggeringly. It stood in front of Fang Hung and, like before, took out supplies from the backpack one by one. "Hint, your zombies complete a round of material search in advance, you get firewood 7, small stones 2, glass bottle filled with river water *2. Fang Hung took out the glass bottle and put it on the bonfire to heat it up. Directly drinking river water will also have a high probability of negative state. After cooking, there will be no such concerns. Liao Bufan eagerly watched the water boil, and couldn't help thinking in his heart, Fang Heng's skills are too perfect. Fang Heng waited for the water to boil slowly, and then knocked a bird's egg into the glass bottle. Hint: you have completed the production of boiled eggs, you have comprehended the cooking skills, and the skill experience value +1. 2 bottles of easy boiled eggs are done. Hoo, it's so hot, so hot. Liao Bufan took the glass bottle impatiently, but he didn't care about burning his mouth, so he poured a big mouthful directly into his mouth. Boiled eggs are really good. It can also quench thirst and increase hunger. After eating a boiled egg, Liao Bufan's satiety increased by 15 points, and his thirst was relieved by most. He sat in front of the bonfire and looked at Lu Lin silently. He suddenly felt that the potatoes he had eaten not long ago were a little off. It's too much of a loss to sell yourself in such a hurry. Fang Heng slowly drank a bowl of boiled eggs. Unfortunately, no matter how full you are. What Lu Lin said before was not wrong. Food is very difficult to obtain in the forest, and only one of the 10 zombies sent out to search found food. However, Fang Heng was not in a hurry. After all, the first round of search had not yet been completed. After a few rounds of hanging up, it would not be a problem to find food and water to satisfy his hunger. After filling his stomach a little, Fang Heng began to prepare for tonight. In the game, if you want to spend a peaceful night in the early stage, in addition to the shelter, you also need a bonfire to ensure the temperature, and a simple bed to sleep on. The bonfire is readily available here, just make sure that there is enough firewood. The simple bed is also very simple to make. You only need the most basic firewood and thatch. In the zombie apocalypse game, players are not allowed to go offline until they have finished making a simple bed. During the offline process, the game defaults to the player entering the sleep state, which can quickly restore energy, and the hunger level will also decrease more slowly than usual. However, once the player's bed is destroyed during the offline process, the real player will be immediately pulled into the main game and get a negative effect. Hint: you have completed the manufacture of the simple bed, and your basic manufacturing skill experience value +1. Fang Heng. Okay. Hee. Liao Bufan came over and scratched his head embarrassedly. I forgot that I didn't make a bed, or you could lend me some materials and I'll pay you back tomorrow. Send it to you. Fang Heng gave Liao Bufan the simple bed he had just made. Ha, I'm so sorry, thank you. If you have something to call me in the future, I will definitely help. Liao Bufan patted his chest, expressing that he is very reliable. Everyone sitting in front of the bonfire sorted out their harvests during the day, and made some basic survival props by the way. Fang Heng yawned, reading www.yuyuganshu.com felt a little tired, and thought it might be better to go offline and take a nap. But before that, there is one more thing that needs to be done: vigil. It is very necessary to take turns vigil at night. Although the zombies outside cannot get in, what if other players enter here? Let's arrange a vigil. None of them were newbies. Seeing that there was no objection from everyone, the black and thin old man Jimmy continued following Fang Heng's words. Then let's allocate the time, starting from 12 o'clock in the morning and ending at 8 o'clock in the morning. Each person is responsible for a 2-hour vigil. After everyone discussed it, Fang Heng chose to go online for the night vigil between 24 in the morning. Okay, let's all go online 5 minutes earlier. After making a plan for tonight's vigil, Fang Heng gave the zombies an infinite loop to search for supplies to hang up. Everyone, I'm a little tired. I'll go offline first. See you tomorrow. Fang Heng finished speaking, and without waiting for any reaction from the crowd, he was the first to lie down on the cot. Hint: player is about to quit the game. Tip: players have been online for 7.9 hours today and have a total of 30 hours of offline time. Please return to the game before the offline time runs out. Hint: Please note that in some specific cases, you will be forced into the game. When Fang Heng said he quit the game, and the rest of the people in the cabin looked at each other in dismay. In the early stage of the game, generally the longer you stay in the game, the better, so that you can get more offline time, so you can make up for the 30 day game time that the main game is forced to play earlier. How does this guy get on the line in a hurry? Liao Bufan looked at Fang Heng's simple bed, shook his head, and said something silently. Boss, it's just willfulness. Opening the game compartment, Fang Heng drilled out. Very hungry. Ming Ming had already eaten a boiled egg in the game before, but in reality, Fang Heng felt even more hungry. Opening the refrigerator, Fang Heng found 2 rows of instant noodles neatly arranged inside. The unmistakable taste of braised beef. You are arrogant. Fang Heng said something, and silently took out a pack. In the previous life, Fang Heng didn't have any habit of cleanliness, but living in such a messy room was still uncomfortable. After filling his stomach, Fang Heng recalled the memory of this body while cleaning the room. Since he split with his ex-girlfriend and was kicked out of the game club, he has been hiding in the hut. Strangely, he still couldn't remember why he chose to commit suicide with this body. Even a lot of things that happened in the game club in the past are vaguely remembered. And a former ex-girlfriend. What's her name? Fang Heng was a little lost looking at a group photo posted on the refrigerator. The woman in the photo has long hair and fair skin, giving people the feeling of a girl next door. Fang Heng felt a heartache for no reason. Forget it, don't think about it, we've already broken up anyway. After eating a bowl of instant noodles to fill his stomach, Fang Heng smiled bitterly at the arrears on his phone. Look, brother, I won't take your body for nothing, I'll make your ex-girlfriend regret dumping you. After a tiring day, Fang Heng said in a daze, and soon fell asleep. In the game, Liao Bufan, Jimmy, and the 3 looked at each other. From initial surprise, to shock, to disbelief. Now they are completely numb. Among the 3, Liao Bufan's face was the most miserable. Since Fang Heng left, a zombie came back almost every few minutes, stood in front of Fang Heng's bed, and piled the collected materials on the ground one by one. Until now, the survival materials piled up in front of Fang Heng's bed had reached the height of one person. Liao Bufan could see clearly that there were more than 5 or 6 potatoes in the pile of supplies, and half of the 5 or 6 bird eggs were crushed by clumsy zombies. But Liao Bufan was heartbroken to death. Lu Lin, I think I was deceived by you. Didn't you say that food is hard to get? Can I go back now? No, you're still not a man. Lu Lin rolled her eyes at him, and she also felt annoyed. Obviously, she had already seen that Fang Heng's talent and skills were not right at the time, so why didn't she take the initiative to ask for cooperation directly, or give him a few potatoes to show her love? Ugh! Liao Bufan let out a long sigh. Why did he sell himself for half a potato in the first place? Before 2 in the morning, the alarm woke Fang Heng from his sleep. Fang Heng rubbed his face. Get up, get dressed, and enter the game. Fang Heng, you're finally here, I'm going to sleep first. In the game, Liao Bufan weakly stretched out his hand to greet Fang Heng. Since Jimmy and Lu Lin went offline, Liao Bufan has been yawning while watching Fang Heng's zombie clone delivering supplies back and forth. The mental blow was great. Looking at Liao Bufan's red and swollen eyes, Fang Heng said subconsciously, "Oh, okay, hard work, then leave it to me." Liao Bufan showed an aggrieved look, he wriggled his lips to say something, sighed again, and lay down on the bed in silence. What's the situation? What happened to him? He was fine when he was offline, why is he half dead now? Fang Heng muttered in a low voice, turned his head to look, and couldn't help but be stunned. Good guy. The supplies on the side of the bed were already piled up to the height of 2 people. The potatoes were crushed several times, the bird eggs were crushed, the egg liquid flowed all over the place, and the glass bottle was also broken. Okay. Fang Heng and Ao made up for the process of the zombies delivering supplies. The brains of zombies are not easy to use. They can only accept simple instructions. After collecting materials, they don't know how to distinguish the types, and they keep piling up. Fang Heng scratched his head. He picked out a few squashed potatoes from the pile of supplies and baked them on the branches, while opening the game log to check. While you were offline, your zombie group collected firewood 412, pebbles 298, firewood 420, empty glass bottles 7, glass bottles filled with turbid sewage *2, clean mineral water 3, broken glass 1, waste 61, potatoes 12, nails 6, canned fruit 2. However, in terms of material collection, the zombie clones have done a good job. There are so many more materials all at once, it is a little troublesome to deal with. Fang Heng chuckled and slapped his forehead. The troubles of happiness. Hint: you have completed baked potato *3, your cooking skill EXP +4. I baked a few potatoes to fill my stomach, and drank 2 bottles of mineral water to quench my thirst. After solving the physiological problems of satiety and thirst, Fang Heng began to work. Fang Heng didn't expect the zombies' hanging up skill to be so efficient. There is an attribute of weight in the game, so it is impossible for him to put everything into the backpack. Therefore, it is necessary to classify first, and then put the materials into simple wooden boxes. It seems that there are a lot of materials, but for the shelter to be built, these materials are far from enough. Fang Heng clicked on the character attributes page, looked up the basic production, and then found the option of simple wooden box in the production category. The production of wooden boxes requires wooden boards 4, nails 2, and wooden boards require a lot of firewood to synthesize, or directly use high-grade logs to make. The prerequisite for crafting with advanced logs is that the base crafting level reaches level 5. Fang Heng scratched his scalp. He has neither logs nor a base crafting level of level 5. So it can only be crafted with firewood. Take it easy. Fang Heng shrugged and started to make wooden boards with 10 pieces of firewood. After a long 1-minute reading, Fang Heng got a wooden board. Hint: after you complete the production of wooden planks, your basic production experience value +1. Is this too slow? Manufacture of props not only takes time, but also consumes the player's energy. Players have limited energy every day, and the only way to quickly recover energy is sleeping. Why don't you hire a few people to help me make it? Ask that guy Liao Bufan, he seems to have the consciousness of a tool man. Fang Heng was talking to himself, and the cabin was pushed away again. A zombie clone completed Fang Heng's on-hook command. He returned to the small room, walked to Fang Heng, and piled the materials in the backpack onto the hill one by one. Facing this group of zombies with low IQ, Fang Heng could only order it again to put the supplies in the corner of the cabin. The zombie then staggered and walked in the other direction. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Zombies are good at everything, but their brains are not very smart. After all, they have been upgraded to SSS skills, why are they still so stupid? Fang Heng said, and suddenly thought of something. He remembered that after the upgrade, the current zombie clone can already inherit the player's skills, so... no way! Fang Heng thought of something, he rubbed his hands excitedly, and gave instructions to the zombie to make a wooden board. The zombie's eyes were sluggish as always, it slowly walked in front of Fang Heng, and then picked up the firewood placed in front of Fang Heng. A long reading bar appeared above his head. Ha! It's amazing! Fang Heng clapped his palm excitedly. This tool man has really started to make wooden boards. Fang Heng kept staring at the readings on the zombies until the zombies finished making the planks. Hint: your zombie clone completes the production of the plank. Hint: you get a wooden board *1. Hint: your basic crafting skill EXP +1. Ha 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 ha! It's too good! Fang Heng laughed out loud. The clone can not only use skills, but his body can also inherit the experience points of skills. Get rich, get rich. Zombies have no troublesome things like energy and satiety. As long as there are enough materials, then he is equivalent to having 10 clones who can hang up the phone 24 hours a day to gain skill experience points. For a moment, Fang Heng felt as if he was going to be invincible. After calming down a little, Fang Heng gave the zombie an order to continue making wooden boards. He happily ran to the side and began to classify the materials collected by the zombie. When Lu Lin went online, Fang Heng was sorting supplies. There were 3 simple wooden boxes in front of his simple bed. Yo, here we come. Fang Heng waved his hand and greeted Lu Lin. Lu Lin smiled a little stiffly. This guy, even a simple wooden box has already been made. Lu Lin envied Fang Heng's talent, and regretted not dealing with Fang Heng well. Fortunately, at least he didn't offend Fang Heng. Lu Lin hesitated again and again, took a deep breath, and made a certain decision. Fang Heng, my talent is drug making. What? Fang Heng raised his head and looked at Lu Lin, who reported to her family. A end-level talent attribute. Lu Lin looked at Fang Heng, now I can make some medicinal materials, hemostasis, recovery type, after level 5, I can make antiviral serum, after level 10, I can make genetic medicine that improves player attributes. Incredible! Fang Heng put away the arrogance just now, he realized that there are other players in this game world who also have powerful talent attributes. Lu Lin said directly, how is my talent? Well enough. Fang Heng didn't quite understand why Lu Lin asked such a question. For a moment, Lu Lin felt a little unhappy in her heart. What is it? It's good, this kind of attribute is already one of a kind. But after thinking about it, compared to Fang Heng's heaven-defying talent, it can only be said that it is better. Soon, Fang Heng realized that Lu Lin's self-reporting behavior was begging to form a team. Fang Heng nodded and thought. Indeed, zombie clones are not omnipotent, and he also needs teammates in this environment. For example, when he goes out, the materials in the shelter may be robbed by others, the materials obtained by zombies also need to be classified, and transactions with players. Fang Heng looked at Lu Lin and hesitated. He was not sure whether Lu Linchi was suitable to be a teammate. After all, they only knew each other for a day, and he was not sure what kind of person Lu Lin was. All I can say is that time is tight, and even if he doesn't choose Lu Lin, he can't find anyone else he can trust. So I'll just say it straight. Next, I hope to get your shelter. As a reward, I will help you with things, but you also have to provide me with food and shelter. Also, we are cooperating. If one day I don't happy, I'll leave, that's all. What? What? You still don't want me, a beautiful girl, to beat you up? Lu Lin pouted and snorted, as if to explain, I don't like playing games, and I don't want to develop in games, I just hope that the game time forced by the Lord God can pass, so hugging my thighs is the most convenient. Already? Don't worry, I'll keep my word, and I'll try my best to help you wherever I can. Originally, when Lu Lin couldn't find her thigh, she could only use it as her own thigh. Now that she found Fang Heng, she naturally felt that it was easier to hug her thigh. Lu Lin felt that with Fang Heng's powerful innate skills, as long as he was not a fool, it would not be a problem to survive. Okay. Fang Heng shrugged and stretched out his hand, then it's a pleasure to cooperate. It's always good to have a helper. Whether she's sincere or not, she'll use it first. What's more, a beautiful beauty. Lu Lin grinned, hee hee, happy cooperation. Fang Heng pointed to the box on the right, that one contains food, you can take it yourself when you're hungry, and you can watch it when I'm not around. Haha. A generous thigh, I really didn't see the wrong person. Look, I won't make you poor. Lu Lin laughed. Since joining the Doomsday game to the present, the enormous pressure of survival has overwhelmed her. She had to suppress her nature and act as if no strangers would enter. Now, Lu Lin is finally at ease. She has returned to her former face, like a happy little magpie, jumping to the box. Wow! Big local tyrant, you still have bottled mineral water. I can't stand it for a long time. The boiled water here always has a strange smell. It's too bad, it's too bad. You even have canned fruit. Hearing Lu Lin, who was startled beside him, Fang Heng shook his head silently. He felt more like a free meal ticket. Maybe it's because the previous owner of the body was a night owl. Fang Heng doesn't feel sleepy at all, instead, he is more and more energetic. After arranging the supplies, Fang Heng still couldn't fall asleep. He simply turned on the communication radio and inquired about the game progress of other players around him. Material exchange, some come, but lack of food. Out of food. Out of food. Is there anyone who takes you in? Begging. Ask for a team. There are currently 3 people in the shelter, and they are required to have a talent level of B or above. If you are interested, chat with me privately. Does anyone know where the nails are? Why can't it be made? I starved to death, do you have any food for stuttering? Let me do anything. Where is the shelter? The shelter I found is full. Fang Heng flipped through the radio chat records, most of which contained unnutritious messages. Most of the nearby players have found shelter, and they were hungry on the first night, and had a great need for food. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. This is a good thing and a bad thing. On the one hand, he can use the food premium to exchange for a large amount of basic materials, on the other hand, he must also be careful to guard against other players plundering by force. Fang Heng secretly sets a plan for creating a shelter. 2 things need to be done tomorrow. First, explore the surrounding map to find a suitable place to build a shelter. By the way, find out whether there are other survivors nearby, and whether there is a doomsday merchant's camp. In order to avoid initial troubles, it is best to find a place with fewer players to build a shelter. After all, players will kill their own zombies, which often happens in the memory of this body. Second, upgrade. Killing the evolutionary crystal shards exploded by ordinary zombies can raise the character level up to level 5 at most. If you want to continue to improve your level later, you must kill higher level zombies or use a lot of survival points to exchange with players. First, upgrade the character level to level 5, and expand the number of zombie replicas to 15, further improving the efficiency of hanging up. By the way, I almost forgot, I have an interview tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, instead of starving to death in the end of the game, it would be interesting to starve to death first in the real world. Thinking about it, Fang Heng said, Lu Lin, you and Liao Bufan will go around tomorrow, find a way to understand the surrounding environment, and try to see if you can find a suitable place to build a shelter. It's better to hide it. Well, bring some food when you go, and find other survivors to exchange nails with them. Shelter? Nails. Lu Lin is not stupid, her eyelids jumped. He asked in disbelief, Fang Heng, do you want to build a shelter yourself? In Sioux City, a red commercial vehicle gallops on the main road. A car was left behind by it. Xia Xi was in the driver's seat, her nose was high, her head held up, revealing a fair and delicate neck, and her hands were clutching the steering wheel, as if she was secretly competing with an invisible enemy. Fang Heng shivered while sitting in the co-pilot. He vaguely felt the murderous aura coming from Xia Xi. Driving a car is so wild. Fang Heng discovered that the body still had a lot of memory loss. He didn't quite remember how he and Xia Xi met, but he clearly remembered that he was always annoying Xia Xi, and his attitude toward her was not very good. Strange, Xia Xi is quite beautiful. Have you remembered the information sent to you last night? It is very likely that you will be asked about corporate development, and large companies will be very concerned about this. Fang Heng. Do you hear me talking to you? Xia Xi frowned, she turned her head to look at Fang Heng, and raised her voice twice. Fang Heng? Why are you always like this? Do you want to treat your own affairs as well? You really don't want to come out for the rest of your life? Boss! Look at the road. Look at the car is good. Fang Heng's face turned pale again. Obviously panicking to death, Fang Heng still maintained a cold personality on the surface, and said solemnly, I'm listening. With your hard power, there is no problem in passing the interview. Xia Xi turned her head to the side and carefully observed Fang Heng from the corner of her eye. Also, if they ask about the past, control their emotions. Okay. The car stopped in front of a high-tech building, and Fang Heng got out of the car. Her legs are still a little weak. The drag racing party was so scary, Fang Heng almost thought he would die in the car. Xia Xi was a little worried. She was worried that Fang Heng would not be able to control her temper, so she followed in the car, honked the horn twice, and stuck her head out of the car window. Should I go with you? Unnecessary. Fang Heng tried his best to imitate the tone of the original owner of the body. Okay, then come on. Watching Xia Xi drive away, Fang Heng breathed a sigh of relief and raised his head. The towering technology building, the exquisite company logo is placed on the outer wall of the building. A phoenix soaring into the sky, every feather is carefully crafted, and it is lifelike under the sunlight. Think it's expensive? Huangming Game Company. Fang Heng muttered to himself, and scenes of memories emerged in his mind. Since being kicked out of the club, Fang Heng has also tried to find a job. Because of the scandalous match-fixing incident, all game companies and clubs who have done a little bit of backtracking know that Fang Heng is a character. All the resumes Fang Heng handed out were in vain, and he was even mocked by the game company's reply to resumes. It's a bit difficult. Huangming Game Company, 17th floor office. Fang Heng sat on a stool. Opposite him are two men and one woman. The three are the management of Huangming Game Company, the examiners of this interview. The man sitting in the middle looked about 50 or 60 years old, his back was straight, his clothes were neatly arranged without any wrinkles, and he was in good spirits. He is Pan Guanglin, the game technical director of Fengming Company, responsible for the company's internal game technology. The woman sitting on his left was about 40 years old, giving people a sense of shrewd and capable. The middle-aged man on the right was holding his arms, and he didn't even lift his eyelids from beginning to end, as if he was asleep. Strangely, even though he was wearing a suit, he still gave off a sense of cynicism. The female assistant secretary introduced it. Fang Heng, a former member of the Alaval Guild Club, has been involved in game competition since high school. He has trained for more than 10 years and survived in the zombie apocalypse game for more than 2 years. He has the initial game talent related to the zombie apocalypse, and the talent rating is S. Pan Guanglin nodded frequently. When they met for the first time, Fang Heng's senses were not bad. Yesterday, the zombie apocalypse of the main game opened the 8th district, and various game companies were moved by the wind, and their Huangming Game Company was also in urgent need of talents in this area. Not to mention Fang Heng was introduced by President Qin himself. Qin Shuren won the trust of the family within 4 years after graduation and accepted the family industry experience. This time, it was a big fanfare to acquire 2 game companies and merge them to establish Huangming Game Company to enter the game industry. For a time, there was a huge momentum in the entire Sui city, quite a kind of meaning to fight for the leader. Pan Guanglin still admired Qin Shuren very much. He said, the person introduced by President Qin should not have any problems. Hey? Free admission? Xia Xi's face is so big? Fang Heng was surprised for a moment. Before the joy had passed, he heard Shui Yuling, who was beside Pan Guanglin, say, Fang Heng, I have another question I want to ask. Mr. Fang Heng, I'm curious why you chose to leave the club. Fang Heng felt that the other party was unkind, glanced at Shui Yuling, and replied, "Personal reasons. Can you be more specific?" "For personal reasons, I don't really want to talk about these things." Pan Guanglin realized something. Mr. Shui seems to be very concerned about this issue. Shui Yuling took out her phone, flipped out an article on it, and handed it to Pan Guanglin, who was sitting in the middle. "Director Pan, look at this first." There was a report on Fang Hung on the phone. A fake match? Discord in the team? All kinds of negative information about Fang Hung made Pan Guanglin's face gloomy. He is an upright man, and there is no sand in his eyes. Fang Hung was already out of the game in Pan Guanglin's heart. The company must not want such a person. Pan Guanglin put down his phone. "Mr. Fang Hung, please explain. If you can't give a reasonable explanation, our company will not welcome you." Shui Yuling looked at Fang Hung with a bright face. She was here for Fang Hung this time. The company is very interested in the newly established business department. Coupled with the sudden opening of the 8th area of the game, the newly established game department has suddenly become a big hit for the company. Countless pairs of eyes in the company are staring at this. Including Shui Yuling, her nephew also participated in this interview competition. Unfortunately, Fang Hung blocked her way. Fang Hung stared at Shui Yuling without saying a word, feeling a little uncomfortable for no reason. "Where did you offend her?" "There is no such person in my memory." Pan Guanglin's face showed no joy or anger. When he saw Fang Hung didn't answer, he said solemnly, "Sorry, Fang Hung, for letting you go for nothing. I will explain this matter to President Qin in person." Just as he was talking, the office door was suddenly pushed open. "President Qin." Pan Guanglin and the others stood up together. "President Qin?" Fang Hung also turned around when he heard the words, looked at the woman who walked in from the door, and stood up subconsciously. He saw a familiar face. "Qin Shuren? Is he Xia Xi's friend?" "President Qin, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com just has something to report to you." A surprised voice interrupted Pan Guanglin's words. "Fang Hung? Why are you okay?" Fang Hung turned his head and looked beside Qin Shuren. "Jimmy." Fang Hung never imagined that he would still meet players who are in trouble in the game here. "Ha ha 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 ha." The black and thin old man Jimmy laughed. He looked very happy. He walked up and patted Fang Hung on the shoulder, then looked back at Qin Shuren. "It turns out that everything is in President Qin's plan. This is the big surprise you just said to me, right? No wonder my friends admire Huangming Game Company so much. Ha ha ha, I am very satisfied with your efficiency." Listening to Jimmy's words, everyone present felt inexplicable. They only know that Jimmy is representing a foreign joint venture company to discuss cooperation, and Huangming Company attaches great importance to this cooperation. This kid actually recognizes Jimmy? And they sounded familiar. Shui Yuling felt that things seemed to be beyond her control. Pan Guanglin also wisely shut up. Qin Shuren's beautiful eyes swept across Fang Hung, and she winked at the secretary. "Mr. Jimmy, you are satisfied. You don't have much time in reality, so let's talk about cooperation first." Okay, let's talk about cooperation first." Jimmy was very happy, he nodded again and again. Jimmy saw Fang Heng's bug-like ability in the game with his own eyes last night. Not to mention, the food alone made him greedy. Jimmy smiled. "Now that's it, at least I won't be hungry when I go back to the game." No way, wouldn't he be involved in some kind of high-level struggle in the company? "I just want to get a job, it won't be so difficult." Recalling the scenes during the interview, Fang Hung always felt that the old woman was targeting him. "Forget it, take one step at a time, if you can't do it, it's a big deal and just walk away." Fang Hung was salted fish as always, without too much psychological pressure, he took a sip of coffee. As expected of a big company, the taste of coffee is pure. With a stack of documents, Miss Personnel Department hurriedly walked into the reception room. Mr. Fang Hung, the incident is urgent. Our company directly signs an internship contract with you. The probation period is half a month and the monthly salary is 30,000 yuan. We will start working today. This is the contract, can you see if there is any problem? Signing the contract so soon? 30,000 monthly salary? In Sucheng, the salary of 30,000 yuan is definitely high. Good. Fang Hung took the contract and glanced at it. He didn't see the problem, so he signed his name directly on it. Mr. Jimmy, an important customer of Huangming Company, Mr. Qin hopes that you can start work immediately and fully guarantee the safety of Mr. Jimmy in the game during this period. Fang Hung nodded, saying in his heart that the job was good. As long as Jimmy doesn't run around and cause trouble in the game, it doesn't take much effort to feed him and keep him safe. In this way, I can also save a lot of time to develop in the game. Is it so easy to earn 30,000 a month? Fang Hung suddenly felt that making money was easy. Well, I'll take you to the business department first. Your accommodation has not yet been arranged. Can you temporarily arrange for you to stay in the hotel next door for the past few days? Sure. After all, it is a big company, and there are free hotel stays. Fang Hung muttered in his heart. Game Business Department on the 3rd floor. Miss Personnel Department led Fang Hung into the door just now, when a slovenly, unshaven young man walked up to him. Finally here, my little sister Angel, is it a new strong man? I've been waiting for a long time, we are short of manpower, how many levels? How many districts? As that guy said, he still looked at Fang Hung from time to time, looking like he was looking at a strong man. No, it's not. If your project team wants someone, you need to report it to the top. This person is not for you. President Qin temporarily let him transition with you for 2 weeks. What do you mean? It's not mine? I told you that the 8th district is open now. We are in urgent need of manpower here. You know the emergency situation. Besides, I also called the report. Yeah, don't tell me, Fang Hung has a special task assigned by the boss, it's... Miss HR just wanted to explain when the phone rang again. Okay, I'll come right away. She hung up the phone and pushed Shenqing in front of Fang Hung. Fang Hung, this is Shenqing. You will be working here temporarily for a few days. Follow him to get acquainted with the environment. Just remember to complete the tasks assigned by the boss. When the boss is done, he will have an interview with you. After the little sister finished speaking, she hurried away. Alas! Shenqing sighed and patted Fang Heng's shoulder. Are you new? I'm Shenqing, the leader of the 3rd business group. Which server are you from? 8 suits. Fang Hung said and looked around. The entire office of the 3 groups is very large, with a row of game bays next to it, net herd of which are running. Most of the rest of the employees are busy sitting in front of the computer, looking like they are in dire straits. Oh! It's also a new server, so I must be very busy. Shenqing nodded, and he casually pointed to a row of high-level game warehouses in the room. Our 3 groups don't have so many rules, and the 7 game warehouses here are still new. You can choose any one to use, and if you dine, it will be on the 7th and 8th floors, Brother Qing. Come and have a look, there is a big order in District 7. The client has urged me. Come on! Come on! Shenqing shouted and said to Fang Hung, you look first, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Fang Hung nodded silently. Busy business department. No one cares about themselves, which is fine. Just now, the little secretary said that he will start working from today, so is it time for work? Playing games at work is the right way. After all, the time in the early game is the most pressing, and it cannot be delayed. Fang Hung walked to a new game room, opened the game room, and went straight in. There are 2 ways to enter the main game, one is to enter the game actively, using props such as the game warehouse to enter the game. There is an emergency button in the game compartment. Once pressed, the player in the game will receive a prompt. The other is passive participation. Players are directly pulled into the game world by the main game and disappear into reality. This approach is considered extremely dangerous. Opening his eyes, Fang Hung appeared in the system shelter again. In the log cabin, materials such as wood and stones were randomly thrown on the ground. A zombie staggered into the wooden house and threw the collected materials on the ground one by one. Seeing this, Fang Hung rubbed his temples and felt a little headache. Lu Lin and Liao Bufan were out. According to his and Lu Lin's plan this morning, Lu Lin will take Liao Bufan to the west side of the cabin to start a search, find out what's going on in the west side, and see if they can find a suitable place to build a shelter. Jimmy is still in reality just like he was just now. In this way, there is no one in the entire shelter. If someone comes in and sees the supplies all over the floor, wouldn't it be a dream to wake up laughing? A shelter needs to be established as soon as possible. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com stores supplies and avoids the intrusion of other survivors. Fang Hung clicked on the game log to view it. Hint: during the period of time you hang up, your zombie group collects firewood 221, nails 7, instant noodles 1, parts 1, insulators 1, turbid water 4, bird eggs 3, brick 7, hey? Found instant noodles. Fang Hung called all the zombies to stop hanging up, returned to the cabin, and made another bowl of instant noodles for himself. 20 minutes later, Fang Hung walked out of the wooden house with a full meal. Behind him are 10 zombies with wooden spears. The fighting ability is not bad. In the morning, Fang Hung had already circled around the cabin a few times, cleaned up the zombies wandering nearby, and brushed some evolutionary crystal fragments by the way. It may also be because of the early game, the main game is more merciful, the number of zombies resurrected around the cabin is not many, and after 2 turns, only 2 crystal fragments are harvested. Forget it, let's kill the zombies first, and plan the next step in advance. Nails. To build a player's shelter, there are 2 types of materials that are most in demand. Wooden boards and nails. Wooden board, Fang Hung has zombies as coolies. It is not a big problem to make and collect, but the difficulty of getting nails is a bit high. It is difficult to meet the needs of building large-scale shelters by simply relying on wild collection and trading with players. Another way to get it is to make it yourself. This will require the use of cast iron and a furnace. The materials needed to manufacture the furnace are very complicated, and it also needs to rely on super high skill levels. It is almost impossible to do it in the early stage, and it can only be purchased from the Doomsday Merchant Camp. Fang Hung turned on his personal survival radio and used the radio to send messages to nearby players. 20 survival points to buy the location of the Doomsday Merchant's camp. If anyone knows, chat with me privately. A few scattered messages came out. Fog grass? 20 points to survive? The boss is so rich. What is this? Who can't brag, I still have 100 points. Brother, you won't kill zombies without doing anything for a day. What are you pretending to be? You have 20 survival points and I'll chop off your head and play it for you. 2 survival points. Ask for a bottle of water. Are you thinking of farting? It's alright if there's no water. There's a stream in the forest. Just drink it and you're done. Next, the topic was completely skewed. Fang Hung was quite speechless when he saw the feedback from the players. Just as he was about to turn off the radio, a private chat from a player appeared in his personal message. Brother, I know the location of the Doomsday Merchant, but you have to give points first. Fang Hung glanced at the opponent's player's ID name Luu. He immediately transferred 20 survival points through the system. When Luu received the survival points from Fang Hung, he was a little surprised at first. There are actually players who are so powerful that they don't even blink their eyes after taking out 20 points in the early stage? Lu's heart moved, and he quickly realized that the other party should be an organized team. Brother, cheer up, the Doomsday Merchant's coordinates are at 21,232, 29,123, it's very safe there, I've just been there. Fang Hung looked at the map. The coordinates of the Doomsday Merchant camp marked by the other party were pitch black, and the distance was not far from visual inspection. In the past, it only took about half an hour. Go over there first. Fang Hung was among the zombies and headed for the Doomsday Merchant camp. More than a dozen zombie clones gathered together are enough to achieve the effect of crushing ordinary. When encountering ordinary zombies, they will be stabbed into a sieve by wooden spears in 3 or 2 strokes. Whenever ordinary players encounter them along the way, they will mistakenly think that they have encountered a small group of zombies, and run away from them, daring not to cause trouble. After walking for nearly half an hour, Fang Hung stopped walking across a hillside. I saw it. Doomsday Merchant's camp. In the zombie apocalypse game, players are not the only survivors, there are also a small number of NPC natives, and some of them stay in the Doomsday Merchant camp. Players can talk and interact with them, and if they are lucky enough, they might even trick an NPC mercenary into being a bodyguard. In addition, players can receive tasks from Doomsday Merchants and exchange survival points for supplies. Fang Hung kept the zombie clone on standby and stepped into the camp alone. After all, zombie clones are also zombies. Due to system restrictions, once they approach the Doomsday Merchant camp, they may be attacked by the camp. Inside the camp, the bearded NPC warmly greeted the new arrival Fang Hung. Hey, survivor, it's your luck to meet me in the end. You're the 18th survivor I've seen here, so you don't have any rewards. This is my newly established camp. It's very good. I can guarantee your safety here, but it charges 500 survival points a night, which is very cheap. Fang Hung ignored the NPC beard's initial lines and nodded, is there any task for me to do? It's really time for you to come. We have just established a gathering point here. There are many things that need to be asked for help. You can see what tasks are suitable for you. Fang Hung opened the task bar. Rows of task requirements are refreshed. Fang Hung's eyes were directly attracted by the task in the first line. Clear up the zombies in the logging camp. Difficulty, SSS. Description, collect all surviving zombies in the target location. Reward, survival points, 4,000. Note, as the game world increases, the difficulty and rewards of this task will gradually decrease. It turned out to be an SS level mission. Memory, the previous owner of the body had been in the game for 2 years, and he saw that the highest task difficulty level was S. Not to mention whether he has the ability to complete it, Fang Hung had no chance to grab this level task before. The new server is still good, and no one has done SS level missions. Fang Hung lowered his head and re-examined the mission requirements. Kill zombies? Ah! Just in time. Fang Hung was determined that this SSS mission was mainly about killing zombies, which was very compatible with him. He could earn survival points, and he could also brush evolutionary crystal fragments by the way. I've accepted this task. Oh? A very challenging task. There is a loggers' camp by the river. There are many zombies in it. Leaving them alone may pose a threat to my camp. I need you to completely clear the zombies in the loggers' camp. Are you sure you want to take this mission? You have 3 days to complete this mission. Yes. Very well, you see, we are meeting for the first time. In order to ensure that you can complete it, you need to give me a deposit. I think the 167 survival points are about the same. You should agree, right? Don't worry, I will return the security deposit in full after completing the task. 167 points is exactly the number of points Fang Hung has left. Fang Hung knew that this was one of the settings of the game. Hide ratings. The Lord God has an initial hidden rating for each player. Every time a mission is completed, the Lord God will conduct a new assessment of the player's overall mission completion and update the hidden score. Players receive tasks that are higher than the hidden rating difficulty, and the Doomsday Merchant will offer to collect a deposit. The greater the difference between the difficulty of the task and the player's hidden score, the more the deposit will be charged, but the maximum will not exceed all the survival points on the player. Once the mission fails, the deposit will not be returned. Make a deal. Hint: you have deducted 167 survival points. Hint: you accepted the mission of Doomsday Merchant Vettel and completely cleared the zombies entrenched in the loggers' camp. Hint: in the apocalypse, a person's power is too small, you can try to seek the help of other survivors and complete the task together. I wish you success, and also remind you that the zombies there are quite troublesome. You can't easily solve it by yourself. You have to find some help, but don't die in it. Thanks. Fang Hung left the Doomsday Merchant camp without looking back. Looking for help? No, he's going to brush alone. In the early stage, players could not even have enough to eat. On the one hand, they had to seize the time to collect supplies to survive, and on the other hand, they tried their best to strengthen the shelter provided by the system, and there was no time to kill zombies. What if you find a helper? How much can they contribute to clearing the camp? The player's combat effectiveness in the early stage is very low. Fang Hung is different from ordinary players. Not only does he have spare energy to kill zombies, but he is also very eager to kill zombies to obtain evolutionary crystal fragments. While thinking about it, Fang Hung left the survival camp. He happened to notice that the two survivors were walking towards the Doomsday Merchant together. The two sides looked at each other, and both of them tacitly passed by without speaking. 5 minutes later, there was an exclamation in the survivors' camp. What the hell? The SSS mission was taken over. Is he crazy? It's possible that he was a novice, and he didn't understand, so he took the task directly. That's right. Luu nodded, but he was groaning in his heart. Shouldn't the person who received the quest be the boss who spent 20 survival points to ask him to buy the location of the camp? No, no matter how powerful it is, there will be no way to clear the zombies in that area. Thinking of the sight he had seen before, Luu felt his scalp go numb.